Good morning.
Good morning.
Let me put that down. Well, anyway, back to, is it your master's program? Good. So there's a total of 10 classes?
Plus a project.
Plus a project. Because I know for teachers, that's huge, going to a master's. That's a
Nice pay raise.
That's a good pay raise, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't you already have a master's? No? Why did I think you? I thought you were working on your PhD.
No, he was supposed to master's and
I hired
then
you.
life happened and he had to.
He was too busy raising kids.
He is a smart guy. Well, you know, he had to do the love thing. He had to, and you had to do that. You had no other choices. And and those kind of situations require so much attention and intention, especially when you're taking someone else's stuff that's broken. It's one thing if someone hands you something that's in fairly good condition, but how often do people do that to you? You know what I mean? They bring, you know, by default you get something that's, you know, needs a lot of watering and a lot of care. That's just kind of the way it is.
Well, in the middle of that's when Michael was born, and he had so much problems.
Yes.
You know, with his heart. So
Yeah.
we were spending most of the time in Loma Linda.
Yeah, I remember. It's nice to have kind of what amounts to a calm season in the clan, isn't it? I mean, you know, nobody's broken a leg in how long? No one's broken an arm or wrist. You know, I mean, this is like really good news here, right? We have a birthday this morning. Keith, how old are you? 30?
31.
Keith is 31. Give it up to Keith. All right. We should sing the obligatory song.
Absolutely.
Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear brother. Happy birthday to you. All right. And many more. All right. Oh, look at your daughter came up. Are you singing happy birthday to my daddy? Did you were able to turn the TV on and everything? Good. Excellent. Oh, by the way, on Monday, my daughter is now be married. So to a wonderful young man named Nick Marcelino. And now it is. And so you can all hear and all over. Please pray for me. And mom, but mom is fully invested. You know, and I think yesterday we were looking at locations and ideas and crafts and. Well, you know, because we need a place that will have at least 300 people because we have very large clan. I mean, the clans alone are 150 people, just the clans. Not more like 200 just for the clans. Yeah, and then everybody else on top of that. So, but it will be we will keep everybody informed when I know tomorrow to pick up materials.
Is Mama making the wedding dress?
Mama's making the wedding dress on the QT. Come on, how many of your friends watch my? Not many, okay? All right. And I guess my daughter has decided that I'm going to do the service. Is that right? Or have you changed your mind on that? Well, dang! Dang! No! Come on, now! What other man but me?
You're going down fast.
Well, it's you know, we're people need to see we're a group, not a crowd. Emerging Love Fellowship is a group, not a crowd, and so a group. All the conversation goes like a circle, right? So we are a group here, not a crowd. Yes, young lady. Everybody but you can communicate. No, go ahead.
Yes, me too. I can remember having my hand going, zoo, zoo, and all the women saying, "Oh my goodness, he's going to drop her." And I only dropped her once. No, I dropped her once because I was tossing her around outside or something.
Oh my goodness.
But
You kind of like broke.
I kind of broke your fall. Yeah.
How are you gonna walk her down the
Oh well, we got that all planned out, but we need to keep some secrets. Okay, we need to keep some secrets. So, daughter, should I start preaching so that we can move on? Anyway, I'm very happy for you. Of course, I had mixed feelings, and so the day I knew it was happening, but when the day she came home, I found myself happy for her and very melancholy at the same time. Because anybody who knows my relationship with my children knows that they're very intimate, and I'm 100% there. Okay, I like to think I'm there in most of my relationships. I like to be there, but with my daughter particularly, and I really like, dang, someone else is going to be getting more of her than me. And so she said, "Oh, Daddy, you can have a daddy-daughter day next week." So remember, I did not forget daddy-daughter day next week. You owe me.
You're visiting a daughter, you're gaining a son.
That's what they say. So when we have all these phrases, but all you fathers out there, you need to empathize with me that you are kind of losing. And so what I thought I'd talk about today is your inner child, right? Your inner child. And see, my daughter was always, and my sons were always my connection. The reason why we enjoyed each other was basically they were just playing with my child. And it doesn't take much, to those of you who know me, it doesn't take much for my child to be present. But what I wanted, when we talked about last week about the kingdom of God is within, I wanted to share, when I meditate or like yesterday when I was out working on my red shank and just sitting in the dirt and peeling off the old ribbon bark, peeling it off, getting the nice smooth stuff, and not wearing gloves because I actually like to touch the tree with my own hands, and so I have the scars to show it. But I just love, it's very easy. So when I'm with God like that, I just always take the approach that, like I want to be with my daughter, it's the same that God or Spirit or Force or whatever you want to call wants to be with me in the same way, without, and never, ever. Of course, my daughter is near perfect, but never, ever, as is my wife. Dang, now you know my life. No, honey, I have not. No, which is cool, because good girls like bad boys. I don't know what it is, but they do. Marilyn, amen, Marilyn. Good girls like bad boys, and otherwise, how would bad boys get to heaven? I'm just being metaphoric now. Everybody, I'm not literal about that stuff. So, if you brought your Bibles. And a whole bunch of other books, which if you tried to get all the books from all the different sources that I read, it'd be hopeless. But Luke 18, Jesus here is talking, and people are bringing babies to Jesus for them to be blessed. And the truth of it is that during the time of Christ, children were just hurry up and grow up so you can be a benefit. Right. Because, in early America, hurry up and grow up so you can get behind the plow. Hurry up and grow up so that you can reach the fruit on the, Hurry up and grow up so that you can take care of all your brothers and sisters. And so you have a childhood that lasts for a little while, but not that long. And then you are pressed into service. Well, imagine the agrarian societies 2,000 years ago, how quickly well, it wasn't even that long ago, especially in England and even in America, where children were pressed into service very, very soon. Why? You don't have to pay them. You have to pay them much. You can oppress them easily. They're small. And what it made for, explain your mother's mothers. It makes for a hardness. And it makes for what childhood? And therefore, how can you get in touch with a child that never was? Right? How can you get in touch when your whole life with everybody who was a superior to you, your life was based in performance and what you provided by way of labor? Okay. And so Jesus is dealing with a very similar situation. And you see the adults thought, well, what's important is the adults, and the kids they're just in the way. And so people brought babies to Jesus hoping he might touch them. And when the disciples saw it, they shooed them off. Get out of here with those babies. And Jesus called them back. Let these little children alone. Don't get between them and me. Whenever I have my meditations with God, and they're very frequent. I always picture myself as just so that God is just excited to be with me, as excited as I always am to be with my daughter. Now, it might take a little work for you to conjure that thought up, especially if you were raised in a performance-based God relationship, or a sin-based God relationship where you're broken. God's always yelling at you. God's always finding what you're doing wrong, and that is the easiest way to have a relationship with another human being. It's also absolutely the worst if you actually want to raise a human being. If you want to raise a human doing, it's a great way. But if you want to raise a human being, it's not good. And I speak as a man who practices what he's telling you. So I'm not talking about some kind of theology of the mind I'm just telling you what I do. And I tell you it works for me. And that's really all I can say. He says, don't get between them and me. These children are the kingdom's pride and joy. When's the last time you viewed yourself before God as God's pride and joy? I do. Every time I meditate, I just assume that I do not have to push through a bunch of stuff to get to God. I just assume God's waiting for me. And therefore, I find it easier and easier just to move right into the space. I just move right past the ideas and the thoughts. When I'm with my daughter, when you really want to be with somebody, it's amazing how quickly everything else is like, what? Oh, that's right. Oh, I'm supposed to be here. You ever been so involved in somebody that you forgot you were supposed to be somewhere else because you really didn't want to be that somewhere else and you just completely forgot about it, all right? Or you have a million things, you can't concentrate on any one thing, which is probably more the case in our culture today. Is it just keep them moving so they don't have time to think about it. All right, just keep them going. Jesus says, mark this, unless you accept God's kingdom in the simplicity of a child, you'll never get in. And the King James says this way, unless you be converted. Or another way to say that is unless you're born again. See, the word born again has been co-opted to mean a religious event that occurs once in your life rather than you ever had a niece or a nephew or a grandchild that there's something about that child that when you're with them, you're reborn for that time. I know Meredith has been posting on Facebook. She's now a grandma. And all of a sudden, it's just like, oh, it's the most beautiful, you know how it is. It's the most beautiful baby in the world. And, guys, you're saying, yeah, well, yeah, it is kind of, sort of. But they're all that, that's how it is, because you just get, and hopefully you have someone in your life or some event in your life or some time in your life, or whether it's a meditation or whether it's a walk in your garden or whatever it is, where you can get in touch with those childlike qualities. Can anybody think of qualities that a child has that would be beneficial for your interior spiritual life?
Unconditional love.
Unconditional love.
Curiosity.
Curiosity, that's one. Yeah. Oh, well, I was a curious creature. Anybody else?
Playfulness.
Innocence, playfulness. Anything else? Trust, yes. Yeah. I mean, my boys, I had to be careful because, if they were on a roof and I said, jump, I'll catch you, they jumped. My boys still would jump. But that's the kind of relationship we had, My daughter would say, I ain't getting on the roof. That's for boys. I'm smarter than that. I'm jumping off a roof. She, as in the feminine, took risks in other areas and pushed me in other areas that sons did not. And that's the nature of that. Children accept things without fear of being hurt. Now, these are all the things that the system also robs you of, doesn't it? Right? You have a relationship and then it's betrayed and then there goes that, and you have a hard time getting back that aspect. It takes a long time. Once you've been cheated on once, I know that my wife, she is my first and only, but I am her second. But I'm first. Right, baby? Okay. I had to make sure. No, I am first. But for a long time, I was second. Why? Because that innocent, she got married believing, like my daughter, this is it. This is the person. I'm never, all right? And she had an innocence and hopefulness and all my wife has tremendous childlike qualities. And I don't mean that as an insult by any stretch of the imagination. It is some of her most appealing features. I tell my wife, honey, every morning you wake up a virgin. She just has that kind of way about her. And what I'm saying is we need to learn, especially with our interior life and our life with God, to recultivate these things again. And some of us, if we didn't have a lot of them, we have to work at creating. As a child, we didn't have a lot. Anybody can relate to that? I didn't have a lot. So my army men were clothespins. Okay, they were clothespins. Or the clothespin was an alligator that ate the army men, which was also a clothespin, but it was sitting up. I had clothespins and rubber bands. So I would set all the clothespins up and then I would shoot them down with rubber bands. Or I would just sit outside and just play in one spot. And I remember I was at a seminar and someone said, went all around and they asked everybody what their favorite toy was. And when it came to me, I thought, well, my imagination. No, hands down. My imagination was my best toy. I can remember when my Uncle Joe, I really wanted something and my dad said, you don't need that. And so while I wait for Uncle Joe to show up, because when Uncle Joe showed up, I could give him a not so subtle hint. And what I wanted was these little cars that I had seen on the back of a magazine that you sent away for. I said, "Ooh, Uncle Joe, don't you think those are cool, Uncle Joe?" Yeah, that's pretty cool. Of course, then a couple weeks later in the mail comes a box, and I open it up and there it is, all the little trucks, and I don't know what they were, but whatever they were, it was a world for me. And so you might have to, in your interior life, in your prayer life, in your meditative life, you might have to work for a season to cultivate those aspects, again, of curiosity and of trust. Because even in religion teaches you not to trust God or to be suspicious of God, or worse yet, to fear God. Because God's the one that can put you in a place and burn you forever in it. Okay. And so, well, who wants to hang out with someone like that? You know, who wants to, really, I mean, you know, the worst thing is having a parent who you're not sure when they come home who's showing up. Right? Did he stop at O'Reilly's or did he come straight home from work? Okay, if he came straight home from work, you got Dad A. If he came to O'Reilly's, then you got Dad B. Now, and I will admit that I learned some of those things. Didn't we all learn some of those skills? And weren't you Mom A and Mom B sometimes? You know what I mean? But the beauty of a spiritual life, of an interior life, is at any point you can reconstitute those things or be born again. You can be very intentional and very quiet, and you can begin and it's a new thing, because then you begin to look at it again. An adult, you can actively apply your will and allow yourself to just have the abandon of a child. Charles Fillmore said this: "It's a childlike mind that finds the kingdom." Since I have, I started meditating many years ago, and I thought, I've got to find bliss. 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 And so I would look, and people would say, "Oh, here's how you find bliss. You do this and this and this and this and this and that and this and that and this and that." Dang, it is a lot of work to find bliss. But what I'm realizing now is it's not a lot of work. It is a lot of intention. And you have to be fully committed to it. But it's right there. I find it very, you do this before you did that, or you didn't bless yourself with holy water before you walked into the room, and you didn't genuflect before you sat down, and you didn't. And I realized I don't need any of that stuff anymore. Because if God doesn't love me more than I love my daughter, then, oh my goodness, God needs to come, and I will school God on what a loving parent is. But I know I don't have to school God on matters of love. So therefore, I have to rethink, and so I've begun to do that. So I just dwell there, and I think, oh, you want to be here, and I just dwell in that space, and I have the most wonderful times. Or just like yesterday, we've been talking about nature, working in the garden. I'm just sitting there in the dirt, just playing with stuff, and just having a great time, working away. Like Brother Lawrence said, practicing the presence of God. You're just working away, but doing it with a childlike way of approaching it, but with the hands of an adult. And it's a wonderful blend, because you are an adult, by the way, right? Amen. Most of the time, some of the time. Dr. Seuss said this, and we all know Dr. Seuss is like, okay, here's God, here's the Bible, Dr. Seuss. We all know that, okay? Adults are obsolete children. Great prophets of the 21st century. A grown-up is a child with layers on. I know sometimes I have a meditation, or people will ask me and they'll say, "What do I have to do?" And they're really struggling because they want to connect with spirit. They really want to connect. They want to feel something. They're actually tired of being mental. They're tired of being, they have a mental God, a theological God. They know the answers to the questions, which actually they came up with the questions too. So they made up the questions and they made up the answers, and they say, well, look, if you know the questions to the answers we say are important, you're doing good. Just stay with the program. And you're saying, but that's not fulfilling, is it? All right. And Osho said this: "The really intelligent person keeps his childhood alive to his last breath. The chances of you making me grow up are very slim. And I can remember having a talk with one of my elders.
When you had elders.
When I had elders. And he said, Bill, you know, I love you, but I just wish that you would grow up. Grow up, who would I be? I mean, and I would be a creation of yours. Forget about it. Right? Forget about it. It ain't happening. I love me. I mean, I really do. You know, people say, oh, I just want to be Jesus. I don't want to be Jesus. I don't want to be Jesus. I don't want to be Buddha. I don't want to be Confucius. I don't want to be Paramahansa Yogananda. Now, if any of those have teachings to help me be who I was created to be, because if God only wanted everybody to be Jesus, well, then just make copies. You know, sometimes people talk very cultically. Oh, you know, I just let, you know, like I wrote this week, you know, if Jesus wants to take the wheel, let him buy his own car. Oh, Jesus, take the wheel. Oh, I like to drive. I don't like getting driven. Now, I don't know about the rest of you. Now, maybe one of these days I'll become, you know, driving Miss Daisy. You know what I mean? I hate being driven. Oh, God, despise it. I figure that God wants additional children, and that they are unique. And you, I don't want to be you, and you don't want to be me, and I don't want to be Jesus, and I don't think Jesus wants me to be him. Now, can you learn? Absolutely. Can you learn from actualized, realized people who left messages for you? And this is what Jesus is saying. Look, he's trying to tell these people, look, you guys will never create the kingdom thinking like adults. More, who's on top, who's in the head, who's in the lead, who's in front, you know, who's benefiting, when do we get to be in control? You'll never create the kingdom as God sees it. You'll never create the kingdom. Even a little, my home is a mini kingdom. My children are a reflection of kingdom principles. My relationships with my friends are a result of kingdom principles, and that a lot of that's just real childlike stuff. Now, at the same time, with the refinements of the mind of an adult, or what the New Testament says, the mind of Christ. And so that, see, you are childlike, but not childish. Because a lot of you have run across people, they're childish. It's not the same. Childlike is a different matter. The really intelligent person keeps his childhood alive to his last breath. He never loses it. The wonder the child feels looking at birds, looking at flowers, looking at the sky. I tell you that I disciplined myself the other week. I have a sister. Her name is Kimmy, and Kimmy is basic. You know, very early on, we realized that Kimmy was just always, and when you go to my house, Kimmy loves Lucille Ball. So when you go to my house, and my sister watches Lucille Ball and the Three Stooges. And she loves to laugh. So when she came out one time and she's standing there and came in, she sat with me and she began to talk with me, and I noticed immediately I was not giving her me. Right? I noticed immediately. The adult in me was like, and I thought, Bill, you know, and so my spirit said, come on, man, you know better than that, right? And so then I engaged her, right? And we began to have this and whenever I'm there, I always, if everybody else comes and demands your time, but I always do my Kimmy thing. Always do my Kimmy thing. And when I used to live there, I would cook for her and make sure she sat down. Because, when you're a child, like in the time of Jesus, many times those are the things that are the easiest to ignore, are the deepest truths. And the things that are the most profound things. And the things that will transform your life the quickest and bring the unfolding of the kingdom into your life. And it seems counterintuitive, but it's not. He says, looking at the flowers, looking at the sky, picking your grapes. Intelligence also has to be, in the same way, childlike. Don't ever, you lose your wonder, or if you find yourself saying, I know a lot, you need to give yourself a quick snack. You ever had those kind of days, everybody's talking to you, say, oh yeah, I know. Yeah. Instead of, really? If you practice wonderment before you know it, if you practice it, it will be there. If you practice, you got to pick a day and just be a kid all day long. You don't have to tell anybody. Just keep it to yourself. It's really fun. I love it. I do it. But it's, dare I say, the secret to my success as far as my interior life. And a lot of times, and if you watch me, and you shouldn't be watching me if you're meditating with me, you should actually not be watching it. But there are a lot of times I will smile during my meditation. Because I immediately picture that I am this wanted being and that I'm loved, and it brings a smile to my face. And so many times I will smile rather than, I need my bliss. I will get there. Huh. What's the method? And if you talk to anybody who teaches, and all the great people who have taught, including the Christian mystics and many people from the East, they will tell you it's far less to do with method than it has to do with heart. And your happiness is much the same way, by the way. Paula Poundstone, the great prophet, said this: adults are always asking little kids what they want to be when they grow up because they're looking for ideas. I tell you, you have to, if you're going to do this, you have to be very intentional about it in your times. I know on Monday, before I knew my dog, but I had so much grace on Monday. In the morning, I was just like in a whole different world. I was just surrounded by this. And the last couple of weeks have just been so interesting. This was so like, and not grace as, God saying, here's some grace, you dirty rat. But just like this, I can't explain it. It's just like this space. That's just a real cool space to be in. And you don't have to explain it. Any more than the kids in the room. If you want to learn spirituality, we probably should go watch Keith's Little Boy. My nephew posted a picture the other day on Facebook, and I reposted it. Your sister's boy. I'm having a brain fade. Huh? No.
Ryan or Trevor.
Trevor. And so Trevor is at some K run or something for something. And Trevor, if you know Trevor, he is always smiling. And everywhere he goes, there is life. Everywhere he goes, there is life. I don't know how you picture Jesus, or I don't trust a spiritual person who doesn't smile. Which is why I don't like most pictures of Jesus. And the system shop and the thing of God is like, I told you so. See, that's what the finger looks like, I told you so. I don't trust spiritual people that don't have a sense of humor. The one I was attracted by Yogananda, one of the teachers from the East, was that he had a tremendous sense of humor. And I could listen to some of his old, and I thought, man, that guy's laughing all the time. He's laughing all the time. I think I could learn something from him. And even as a boy, watching Bishop Fulton J. Sheen, I love to watch Bishop Fulton J. Sheen. And he was just such a generous spirit. You know how sometimes this world can make you so cheap about you're happy and you're smiling, you know. Don't smile too much, people take advantage of you. Well, yes, children get taken advantage of, but it's okay. You know what I mean? That it's where the depth lies spiritually. Ward Cleaver said this. No, I mean, seriously, we have to delve into the deep spiritual things. If we're going to understand, we have to delve into the deep spiritual things. Ward Cleaver said this. That's from Leave It to Beaver for all of you born, unfortunately, in before the golden age of television. You're never too old to do goofy stuff. You're never too old to do goofy stuff. There are days, and my wife will tell you, there are days when I double down on goofy. And I think sometimes even in an environment with students or with children especially, if you don't at some level go childlike, if you don't at that, you'll go bonkers, because they will drive you mad. They will drive you mad. Swami Kriyananda said this. Greatness has always been, and why I pick people from the East, and let me tell you why I quote from people from the East, because wisdom, the world must be balanced. And God must know that the world needs balance, and so there is an East and a West, and there is a North and a South. Every group thinks they're the only group, and that's not true. And God put all these different people who at the world and a different understanding, because we need all of them for balance. Otherwise, the Earth would be a half sphere, wouldn't it? And it would spin weird. You ever tried to luck on that? It ends up going flat. Oh my goodness, they were right. The Earth is flat. And many a theology, and especially in realms of religion, act as if it's flat. And anybody that says anything on the eastern side of the hemisphere, they couldn't possibly know what they're talking about. Remember, like, you shouldn't listen to them, and you definitely shouldn't read them. I read them all the time. Of course, you realize that the Jewish mindset is much more Oriental than it is Greek. Greatness is always associated with an expansion of consciousness. And an expansion of consciousness has always been associated with an expansion of such feelings, sympathy, empathy, and love. Self-expansion naturally includes a concern for the well-being of all. You know, it's funny, if you ever in a room with toddlers, and everybody's happy, and then one of them cries. Oh my Lord. They all start crying. Right? Why? They empathize. Well, gee, you know. You see. I'll read this. Maybe we should develop a crayon bomb, a Crayola bomb, as our next secret weapon. A happiness weapon, a beauty bomb. And every time a crisis developed, we would launch one. It would explode high in the air, explode softly, and send thousands, millions of little parachutes into the air. Now, you got to think like a child now. I'm hoping that somewhere along the way you made the transition this morning, and you're not still crunching the numbers. All right. Do you know what I mean, Keith? You know, that's what I tell you. Being childlike is a very intentional thing, because you're going to default to being adult dumb, and send thousands, millions of little parachutes into the air, floating down to earth, boxes of Crayolas. And we won't go cheap. No. No little boxes of 8. Boxes of 64. With the sharpener built right in. With silver and gold and copper, magenta and peach and lime, amber and umber, and all the rest. And people would smile and get a little funny look on their faces and cover the world with imagination, right? This is what Jesus is talking, and these people want the kingdom of God. They want it by violence and by aggression, by domination, by we're in and you're out. And Jesus says, really? Crayons, Crayola. Why don't you draw something on the ground, you know? It's like Judah, they're all arguing about this woman, and Jesus wants to do doodles. This is my favorite thing to do during board meetings. What? Doodle. Pencil, paper, doodle. Never said, oh, pastor doesn't care. Well, pretty much you had that up. I don't know. Because that's what they're talking about. Well, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to paint this door, what color should it be? And yeah. And it all seemed, never did seem important to me, which is obvious because that's why I do it.